All right. Good evening out there, Facebook and YouTube. And hello to anybody listening to the Common Grounds podcast later on down the road. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Chris Greenfield from Roasters Marketplace. Tonight, we are going to go back. We haven't done it in a few weeks, but we're going to go back and talk to one of our roasters from Roasters Marketplace, Mike. He's got a background he was a professional chef for over a decade, decided to move into coffee. He's from South Florida, or he's living in Southwest Florida right now. He's from Jersey, so you'll hear about a little bit of that Jersey accent tonight's interview. He's a great dude. I've been talking to Mike since I think back in December when we first started this, and he's got some really good coffee and a really cool story. So if you're tuning in tonight for the first time, thanks a lot. If you're listening down the road, appreciate you tuning in. If this is in the future, this is that you're listening to us. This is right in the middle of, I guess we're going on week 4 here of social distancing and quarantine for the coronavirus that's going through. So there's a lot of traffic on the internet. I want to apologize to anybody that's watching out there or listening in the future or right now if we have any technical difficulties, but we'll go ahead and get this show live. And there were the technical difficulties that I was talking about. So I didn't have any music on the intro. That was awkward. Hey, Mike, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Good. How you doing, Chris? Thanks for having me here.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show and taking your time out tonight to talk to us a little bit about what you're doing at Rising Rooster currently, or were doing in the past and looking forward to doing in the future. So, Mike, tell the folks out there that are watching and listening a little bit about yourself, what your background is up until you got into specialty coffee.
Background was I was actually in the financial field for about a couple years, 2 years before that crash. Always wanted to work for myself and do that. So went back to culinary school, started from the ground up, did that. Started as a line cook, progressed very quickly. I was running a small bistro for about 8 years or so. And then I just didn't have it in me anymore. And I've always loved coffee. And I've had a couple friends who have done this and been very successful and produced a great product. And I did it as a hobby and turned a hobby into what it is right now.
And how'd you go from what was your first introduction to specialty coffee?
My first introduction to specialty coffee was at the restaurant I was the chef at. The general manager, his brother owns a very successful roastery in Philadelphia, and we would use his coffee beans in our infusions for the house cocktails. And I got my hands on it, and I was like, "Wow, this is quite good, and it's quite different." And just one of his coffees led to another, led to trying, like we all do now, as much as you can, and that's what kind of led me into coffee.
The interesting thing about specialty coffee, and this is one reason why we started the podcast, is almost everybody that's into it was introduced personally by somebody else.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who just woke up one day and is like, "I'm tired of Folgers and Maxwell House. Let me try something else."
And
It was somebody like, "Hey, you have to try this. Give this a shot."
it's definitely one of the few things out there. I don't know, maybe Scotch, maybe some
Yeah,
finer whiskeys or bourbons or something that people might not necessarily go out and get the first time on their own. Coffee is definitely its own specialty coffee. That is definitely its
yeah.
own animal when it comes to
Because
that stuff.
people are, I don't think they have the perception yet that what goes into a craft good specialty coffee, where somebody, okay, it's somebody's birthday, anniversary, we can go to the liquor store, go to a shelf, pull it off, spend $100 and say, "Ooh, wow, this must be good." People don't know that about coffee yet. They're not quite there yet.
So that brings up a good question that I've yet to really ask. What goes into, let's talk about the one of my personal favorite coffees that you have, and it's the dark Ugandan. Okay. And that is uh, this month's Roaster's Choice.
Yes.
When you got that bean, talk to me about the process of you working your way to where it is, to where that
Okay.
roast profile. How did you come up with
It's
that?
really funny about that particular bean because people will still ask me, "What's your favorite?" You know, like, "Oh no, no, I love them all." No, that is my favorite. I'm not gonna lie, that is my favorite bean that I have, and that I've worked with. And I actually got that one when I was still just doing it at home for fun. And I was like, okay, there's a couple local roasteries that I could go and get this and this and this, from them. And I was playing around looking, okay, what are some ones I haven't had before? And I was like, I've never had a Ugandan. I'm going to try that. So, I ordered 5 pounds or whatever it was. I'm like, wow, this is going to take me forever. But I did one at one roast, one at another after reading what other people did for it. And I was like, okay, I liked it at the lighter, but it wasn't developing the nutty notes. So the next time I did it for a little bit longer. And then I ended up burning a batch. And then, it was what it was. And I just kept playing with it. And I found where I liked it. And that's how I came upon that one from just playing around at home and just sitting there. I've never had a Ugandan coffee. So I'm going to make mine.
And that's one of the things I love about roasters like yourself and the roasters that I've assembled on the website. I typically try to not talk about the website the whole time, but I'm getting to the point where I'm like, oh, I don't have anything from Panama. I
Yeah.
need to find somebody from Panama. Or hey, Mike,
It's,
get some Panamanian, man.
yeah.
It's
I don't want to, be like, I got some Costa Rican I just started playing with. Because I know people like that, and it is out there. But people want to try funky stuff. Try stuff from all over the world. You can't get a Scotch or this or that and taste the whole world and what they have to offer, like you can with a cup of coffee. You can get a couple ounces of coffee, make something new every day. 1 cup, a whole pot, whatever your choice is, and you could taste the world in a week. You could taste seven. You could taste all the continents in 1 week.
Yeah. I think we're missing Antarctica.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You can taste the world in a week.
You can. It's such a cool experience when you get into it. And I keep on getting there's Amber Alerts. They want me to put on my Batman suit and go save somebody right now. But they your Ugandan and your hen house. The first time you sent me after we talked, I think we talked twice, and you're like, you're like, I'm going to send you coffee.
Yeah.
You're going to send you coffee. And you stuffed the envelope full and you sent it to me. And I have really kind of watched how I speak when I'm online. But the first time I made a hen house, I'm glad there was nobody in the room with me because I was like, man, that is good coffee. That's all. I mean, it was just so, it's just so good. And the flavor profile, you could take it and say, this is coffee and hand it to anybody. They'd be like, yep, that is coffee. So
It's
tell me
just
about
a little bit different. It's meant for the people who aren't really into coffee yet, who might just be getting into coffee because it is a Colombian base. So it's something that's a flavor that everybody's familiar with. Not everybody's had a Guatemalan before. So, and I was like, well, I've never had a Colombian Guatemalan mix. And, once again, it was just sitting there, you know, scooping stuff out and doing ratios and let's see how this goes.
now. Do you roast that? Don't give any secrets away, but it's not.
No,
really
it all gets dumped together and mixed.
okay. You mix it all together
No,
and roast it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
I
cool.
put it in. I have Cambros sitting in the garage, and I mix them that way, and they all get done that way. I tried doing them in the beginning, 2 different batches, and it never seemed right to me. So I was like, I said, I don't want to take the lazy way out, but it's like, let me just try this. And I tried it, and I was like, I like that the best.
Well, from what I understand, and I'm not a roaster, just that different technique, saying one bean might have a higher moisture level than the other bean. And so that being roasted together changes the whole entire roast profile. So you might not get the same flavors out of that one coffee if you roast it separately, right?
Yeah, there's the two theories on that on why to do them separately. Like you said, they each want to react differently. When I did it, I never got the actual flavor I was looking for, and this I got it doing that. And I'm like, hey, if that's how it's got to be, that's how it's going to be. And just so everybody knows, like I know there's most of the roasters live and die by the computer, and they watch that screen, they watch that rate of rise and what the drum's telling them it's doing and what their flow is and this and that. I'm like, I don't touch my dials that much. I adjust them throughout the roast and bring, the fans up and down as needed. And the heap, I don't live and die by that rate of rise and this and that. I sit there with the trier and it's my nose. And if you want to call it palate, I go by that more than watching that computer.
So this is one thing that always is always really cool about the coffees that we do here, or that y'all do, I should say. How big is a batch for you? Like
I do 1 kilo.
How much?
1 key.
1 kilo. So you can get, was that 3 12-ounce bags, 4 12-ounce bags?
Yeah, so I'm getting, call it 3-ish, just with them, because with the moisture loss and all that, and always wanting to try a little bit before I package them all.
Right. Because you gotta try it before it goes out of the kitchen, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's when I was talking to Emily last week. I don't know if you tuned in and watched the interview with Emily Smith from Novus Coffee Importers. After I talked to her during the interview, I don't know where the conversation came from or where at in the conversation, because I talked to her for like an hour and a half total. But she's like, well, how big are your roasters? How much are they roasting at a time? I was like, well, some of them got a 1 kilo, 1 kilo roast. She's like, well, that's not even small batch. That's micro batch roasting, I'm like, well, okay, well, I guess I need to change some descriptive terms on my.
I am the biggest little roaster in Southwest Florida.
And what are you roasting on? What equipment? What do you got?
I have an Aleo right now. Tried to give that new technology a shot. That everybody's talking about, the infrared. It's definitely different.
Yeah,
it's definitely different.
Had you roasted on anything other than that before?
As far as big equipment, I played with some Probots, some of the bigger boys, but there's always the roaster right there with me, and it was their equipment and just touching and playing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they let me have free for all and be like, well, we're going to go here for a little while, do what you want.
So how many different, well, I'm going back up instead of talking about that. What part of your professional culinary training? So when we first talked, I went to culinary school back when I got out of high school for about 9 weeks before I realized that I needed adjustment in my life, and I went into the Army. But how much of that classical culinary training comes out in what you do when you're looking at flavor profiles?
For me, I think it comes out a ton, and I really use my senses. From developing it over the years of what things should and should not smell like. Something smells good, and if it smells good, it's probably going to taste good too, unless something really went awry. So that's why I sit there with the trier all the time, and I'm telling you, the whole time, every 2 seconds, I'm in and out, and when it's just right, I yank it, and when it's just smelling just right, and it's just something about that bean looks the way it's supposed to and smells the way it's supposed to. That's what I depend on. That training, I think, comes into that, because when I was starting to play with coffee in the beginning, my friend who owns a roastery, he's like, Mike, you know how to cook. He goes, you'll know if your coffee's done the way you want it to be or not want it to be. And that was his advice to me. He's like, you'll know when you want it, where it's at. And that's that.
What's your favorite part about roasting? Like the whole thing. I mean, including like the farmer's market or the interaction. What's your favorite part?
Right there. My favorite thing is when somebody tries a coffee for the first time who's never had that, to them, shall we just say, big chain from Seattle is a is good coffee. And then they try something, and I tell them, I roast, everything you see here was roasted on Tuesday, packaged on Wednesday, and here we are for Friday. And, I was like, when they taste that little sample, and they're like, wow, what am I tasting? And it's like, okay, here we go. And so you start to have that conversation, and they get interested in it, and they want to try. And I tell them, I was like, if you like this one, how about we move into this one? Well, no, I didn't like that. Okay, so this is more of the flavors you're looking for. So if I were you, I would, well, first pick up a bag for me today, and then go out and explore the other people in the area and see what they have that have these flavors that you like, or this terroir, or this or that. And that's what I really like, is seeing some face who's never had a good coffee before, or what they perceive to be good, and now really try something artfully crafted.
I've been impressed with how militant people are at defending their preferences towards Folgers and Maxwell House.
Yeah.
And I've made some really bad coffee in my life, and most of that was in the Army. And when I was my first tour in the Army, I was a cook, and I mean, we were boiling 20-gallon pots and dumping some concentrate in it and sending it out. And I didn't like coffee back then because it was nasty. It was horrible. And then, get to the point where I was buying beans off the grocery store shelf that they could have been there 9 months.
Yeah, you don't know.
You don't know. And
you
now,
have a sell by date, not a roasted on date.
Yeah. And I've got, when we get orders in, typically there's a text message involved in there somewhere that they're going into the bag still warm and getting put in the mailbox.
Yeah.
And
it's cool.
Yeah, it is
it's
really
cool when you sit there and the bags are still burping the next day, and that's awesome. I mean, I'd rather still be able to be small and have my hands on everything, and somebody get the freshest coffee. I'm sure there's people who have access. I know there are, who have much better, harder to find beans than me. But I just want you to have the freshest coffee that you possibly can, because that makes all the difference. It's only a couple hours old. It just finished gassing off.
Do you have a favorite? Which is your favorite way to brew? When you wake up in the morning, what are you hitting?
When I wake up in the morning, I'm hitting the button on the drip.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie.
It's honest.
Especially when I'm doing the markets, I don't have a cup of coffee till I hit the market, because I get dressed and I'm there right away. First thing, I'm there around 6:30 in the morning, and I just hit the auto drip button and get that going. But my favorite way is my Chemex. I love my Chemex, and I every time I take it out, I cradle it and hold it. I'm still scared I'm gonna break it, but I love my Chemex.
I've been playing with that the Origami Dripper. Have you messed with those?
I saw when you got that, I was like, I kind of want that.
It looks really cool, and that's the first thing I noticed about it, is it's going to take some really good pictures when I get a chance to mess with it, just because the way it looks. But it's got a really big opening in the bottom of it, right? So just like a V60, it's got a really big opening. So you get a lot of really good flow, and it doesn't really channel. And then you've got, I don't know. I mean, it's all this jagged surfaces. I'm sure there's a lot of science that I'm missing out on.
I'm sure there's something that it's releasing something as it's cycling through and creating nucleation points on there to have oxygen bubbles hit and release aromas.
And it's really good. It smells great. And I think it brews a little stronger than the V60.
Is it faster than it?
What's that?
Is it brew faster than the V60?
I couldn't tell you, because I can only fit about 25 grams of coffee in it. Okay. So when I do a V60, I'm usually hitting 40.
All right.
So it does brew faster because I'm not brewing as much. I'll have to compare times and look at it.
I'm curious too, now that you're saying that, for the markets, I like to do pour over for everybody and do a proper cup, but not everybody is willing to give you 3 minutes of their time for a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Especially in the morning, they're not always willing to. They're like, I know it tastes good, I know I like it, just please give me my cup.
Yeah, and I do a pour over and French press every morning. I do the French press for my wife, and I do a pour over for myself, and because I'm already up a little bit before I hit the coffee, uh, but you definitely have to have the dedication to do it. But it brews such a good product.
It does, and you know, I'm not gonna lie, I like them all. I love my Aeropress. I love the things you can do with it.
Oh yeah, a lot of fun. And I haven't really talked about that much on the show. I actually did an Americano today for my wife this afternoon, and I was like, here, I'm going to brew this a little bit stronger than I normally do. I did a inverted technique with the
Yeah,
Prismo.
I saw you doing the invert, and you have that new screen too, which
Yeah,
I really want. Kind of.
the Prismo is pretty cool. So you get
Yeah, I kind of jealous of that one.
you had a lot more. There was a lot more crema on top of the Americano today when I served it to her. She kind of looked at it. I was like, just trust me, try it out. You'll like it.
You know, that's so cool for people at home too, that you don't have to spend $5,000 on a press. You can spend $30 on an Aeropress, and how much is a screen? Another 10 or 15?
Depending on which one it is, yeah.
Yeah.
That fellow, since it comes with the attachment on the end too, I think it's in the 20s as well for that.
Okay, so if you're spending $50 on stuff that's not going to break, the Aeropress isn't going to break. If
No.
I haven't broken it, nobody's going to break it. And because I use it, like you said, for Americanos, I have a vendor every day, loves it. And I use it for that purpose and just to show people these different brewing methods. And it's another great little tool to have.
The Aeropress would probably be one of my recommendations on somebody that's kind of getting started into specialty coffee. Maybe an Aeropress, probably a V60 or a Chemex. The Chemex is a little bit easier. You know, I first was running a Chemex. I didn't have a pour over kettle. I was pouring water out of a pot
Yeah, when I
over
first
it.
did it, I did microwave it, water with a chopstick in it. But no, if anybody's listening, buy yourself an electric kettle.
Yes,
They're for more than coffee.
yes. That was probably one of my best investments. Totally, is my temperature setting pour over coffee maker, or my pour over
Yeah.
kettle was a great investment for sure.
Now you could do so much more with them than just boil water.
Definitely. What is your current favorite roast that you don't make, that you don't roast?
That I don't roast will be the guy who got me into coffee. If I could say the name,
Yeah, go for it.
it's Reanimator's Telemetry Blend. Um, there's something about it that I just love. I guess you know why? Because it was the first coffee I had, so that's why it holds a special place in my heart, and I love it.
And he's up in Philly, right?
Yes, he is all throughout Philly.
Awesome.
He's getting hurt very badly with all this.
Yeah.
As we all are, but
Yeah.
I
I had a
big
I had a
cities.
I had a buddy who I'd been kind of harping on to try coffee for a long time from my website, because he was always, before I got into coffee, he was always that one that was posting, hey, I got this nice Ethiopian and I'm doing a pour over. I was like, well, that's fancy. I don't have the time for that. And then after I got into it, I'm harping on him, hey, you got to try some coffee. You got to try some coffee. And so he made a purchase a couple last week, I believe. And 3 days later or 4 days later, when he got the bag of coffee in the mail, he messaged me, and I'm not going to say the first word he said, but
Yeah,
he goes, you just sold me a bag of coffee from somewhere that's an hour away from me. Because he didn't know about them. He didn't know they were there.
it's funny when you say you don't know about it. I don't know about a lot of the people that were here. Every time I talk to one of the other roasters, is when I learn there's another one of us. That's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, they're a block away. I had no idea.
Yeah. That's one of the things that we're working on, and we've talked about with other roasters and done some stuff, is that local search engine optimization, to where you're showing up, and the internet side of the house is such an important part for a small business, that and even now more than ever. I mean, so since we're on that topic, and that is on everybody's concern, how has the current situation with the coronavirus affected your business?
it went from almost all my business was face to face over retail, and now that's completely zero. So now it's all been online, and I'll be honest, I probably am not doing the job I should be doing with the back end on the website and updating and doing the post. I think just letting people know what you have going on is important. Like, hey, we are still here. We're still trying to make it, um, and provide you something that, not just for us to, that this is our business, but it's for them that, okay, we could still have something that makes us feel normal and happy in the morning or the afternoon or night. We're still delivering a product that puts a smile on somebody's face. It's That's the one cool thing about coffee is that whether it's a good time, hey, let's meet for a cup of coffee. Where it's a bad time, come on, I'll get you a cup of coffee. It's something that always brings a smile to somebody's face. And it's just we have to all work together and do the whole online thing and try and make it as easy as possible for people to get that fresh coffee and to let them have a little bit of normalcy and put that smile on their face. But definitely, it's all internet driven anymore.
Yeah.
And I hope we can get back to retail because, like I said, I do enjoy talking to people and seeing the actual smile on our face. I just hope this doesn't create the new new norm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
No.
all online and nobody ever meets each other anymore.
Yeah. I don't think that'll work too long for anybody, sanity wise,
Yeah.
but now is the perfect time. And I'm not saying this as a plug at all. Now is the perfect time to get into specialty coffee and explore it a little bit more because you don't have that commute. If you're working from home, you
Yeah.
don't you don't have that commute. And my wife this morning, she's leaving the kitchen, and I've got her set up downstairs in the master. She's got two screens and her working from there. Because I knew right off the bat we weren't going to share an office. That is not going to work. And so I got her set up downstairs, and so she's leaving the house, leaving the corner of the kitchen with her coffee cup. I said, "Hey, drive safe.
Yeah.
Like enjoy your commute." And she's just
Yeah.
like, like, how are you this funny already this morning? But it's true. We have the ability now to do some stuff that we might not get a chance to do. And one is getting into specialty coffee. And like you said, if you know what you're doing and you know your ratios, you can get a really, really good cup out of an auto drip.
Yeah. That's what people are like. Well, how come? They're like, what kind of pot are you using when I have to churn and burn cups in the morning? Like, I have a Mr. Coffee back here. And they're like, I have the same pot at home. I'm like, I'm sure you do. They're like, well, why does it taste different? I'm like, because I know like you said, I know how much, the weight in grounds and water. And, it's not the best cup in the world, but it's a lot better than you sitting there with the scoop that comes in your can from the grocery store that just, as long as you use some of your ratios, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
And clean it off.
Definitely clean it, especially if you've got a water reservoir that doesn't remove from the
Filter water, people. Please use filter water. That makes all the difference in the world too in your coffee, I found.
Have you ever tried any of the mineral packs? So they take the distilled water, and
I have
you ever
not.
messed with that? That's
No, I use I've done taste tests of I've used a Brita filter and I've used a bottle of some type of spring water and then out of the tap. And I can taste the difference. Like this one's this one's this. This one tastes like a pool. This one still tastes like this. And oh no, this one's actually really good.
I was impressed when there's places where on the internet you can go and you can buy those little mineral packets. So if you take completely filtered water that doesn't have any minerals left in it whatsoever, you can add these mineral packs that are custom designed for brewing coffee, and that's pretty intense. And the guys that are competing in national competitions do that so they can control exactly what their coffee is going to taste like, which is really
that's intense. That they know it's sort of like getting a McDonald's burger. You know what your burger is going to taste like no matter where you are. So no matter where that making that cup, they know what their water is going to taste like.
mm-hmm.
That is intense watching those guys.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. If you're watching tonight, you go on YouTube and Google or go on YouTube and search Brewers Cup, and you'll find some really cool videos and presentations, or the barista championships. There's some very interesting stuff on there about brewing like that. When we talk about we'll talk about Auto Dripper a little bit more for our audience. I have a Cuisinart, however you want to say it, and that I can't put enough coffee in that coffee pot, in that basket, to make 12 cups. I can't do it.
It boils too hot, and that's all that evaporation. And when it hits down, you ever watch it? When it hits down, it sprays all over, and you're like, I just cleaned the thing. How come there's coffee everywhere?
Yeah, there's coffee everywhere, and I just can't physically put enough ground coffee in the basket to make 12 cups, and it just, the ratios are off too much.
Yeah.
So 8 cups is the max I can brew out of my dripper.
Yeah, I think when I do it for my churn and burn mornings, I'm getting a little over 10 cups is what I'm coming out with, like enough for me to have a sample and then pour 10 cups from there.
So when talk to us a little bit about the farmers market. What's your setup when you go do one, and how do you engage?
I'm more believe it or not, I'm the sit back and come to me, because you can smell me from a mile away, in a good way.
Yeah, the coffee. Coffee.
You can smell the coffee from a mile away. I shouldn't say me. You can smell the coffee from a mile away. So it's kind of, people are just interested to see what is that smell, because it doesn't smell like, gas station coffee. It's got a different aroma to it. And honestly, I have my little 10 by 10 booth, and I have my bags of coffee that are, ready to go for people. And when they come by and smell it, it's just hey, are you a coffee fan? Have you had a craft specialty coffee before? And I have some signage out, about, I'm doing the Mexican Chiapas coffee, about why the Chiapas coffee is so good. And, a little thing about, okay, this, this coffee from here, this coffee from there, just to educate people real quick and to get them interested in the conversation. And that's pretty much my day of that. Just wait for them to come to me, and when they smell it, it's okay, let's talk.
What's normal foot traffic look like for y'all at that farmers market when everything's normal?
During season down here, we'll have, I would say, a couple thousand people come through a day.
That's pretty intense.
It can be, but I'm not, shall we say, everybody's cup of tea. That it's, you could be going to the market with something specific in mind. You're doing that, and like, hey, would you care for a sample? And they try it, like, no, not my thing. Like, and I take no offense to it, because you know what, I have to watch my demographic down here. I tried to do in the beginning really third wave coffee and just all that, that city roast at most, and like pulling it right at first crack. But people down here just weren't getting it, and they were like, I don't like this. So I brought the Ugandan back in, and I did that as like a medium darkish roast, and people like that, and that sold and sold and sold. So I had to watch my demographic that way and transform to a lot more darker roasts than true third wave coffee.
No, I mean, and that's a lot of things. I mean, you got to sell what your local demographics is buying. It's all there is to it.
Yeah, and, when you're dealing with mainly people in their 50s plus, 60s plus, who didn't know any better up until a year or two ago, and trying to get them to try this really light, fruity, floral flavors, and taste this grapefruit, taste this, dark fruit flavor, and you taste the cherries, and they're like, I can't stand this. I want my chock full of nuts.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not for you. I appreciate your time, and thank you.
For somebody who's getting into specialty coffee or thinking about it, what would you recommend them do? Like, how do you approach it?
What I did? I've always done this my whole life. I never do things the easy way. I just kind of do it. I just kind of jump into it. I'll definitely read, and then buy yourself a little home one, and just buy sample bags of beans. just write down what you're doing and say, okay, I really like this, and just play. Play, play, play. That's what it's all about. And that's what's fun. Unless you really burn them, and if you do burn them, use them as compost or something. But if not, you still got something that you can drink. Or even if you're not going to drink it, make a coffee liqueur out of them. Or make a rub out of it. Just something that you don't have to waste it.
And
So
you've got your friend there locally that makes soap,
yes.
right?
Yep. Yeah, I have a gentleman. He's at the market. That's how I met him. Who does my coffee soap, and I give him just the grounds and say, hey, I need more.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And it's a cool little thing. And people are like, can I eat it? I was like, whatever you want to do with it when you pay for it is up to you.
Cocoa butter and shea butter soap with
Shea
coffee
butter,
grounds.
olive oil, coconut oil, and coffee grounds and glycerin. That's all that goes into it. It's all natural.
That's
And
awesome.
I tell people, use it when you're fishing, done gardening, done cooking. Don't use it every day. I tried doing it, and I had all little, coffee grounds caught in the hair and everything. So I'm like, just use it on your hands. Keep it next to the kitchen sink. It'll last you like 5 months.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yep. Now for the home brewer, for the home brewer, what would you recommend? How somebody would get into specialty coffee? What would be the minimum equipment you think would somebody need to do it right?
The minimum equipment. Ooh. I mean, really, I would just hop on any one of the websites and buy one of the small roasters to start and go from there.
Home brewer,
Home drinker. I'm sorry.
You're good.
You need to spend what, $30 on an Aeropress? Because I think that at least the Aeropress affords you to do different drinks. Where the V60 or one of them, I think it's a little bit harder to make an Americano or do something else with it. Where you can froth some milk real quick, on the stovetop, whipping it real quick, and make some cappuccinos or stuff like that with the Aeropress.
Mm-hmm.
And the crema that comes off of the Aeropress can be really amazing.
Yeah.
So what do you have to spend? $30 and you're good. $30 and another 15 on coffee.
Yep, definitely.
No, and another 30 on an electric kettle.
Yeah, and maybe 15 on a scale.
We're
looking at it. I actually, the guy who's actually hosting my website now, I moved website host a couple weeks ago. We were talking on the phone, and I ended up sending him a pour over. He's like, well, I really don't have anything to make coffee with. I was like, okay, I got you. So I went on Amazon and I got the $15 or the $30 pour over kit, V60 pour over kit that comes with the little carafe and the scoop and 60 and the filters. And I sent that to him, and I sent him a $12 scale and like a $15 grinder. I was like, here, now you don't have an excuse when that coffee comes to you next week.
Yeah.
Now you can
grinder. That's something else we forgot. You definitely need a grinder.
I'm a big fan. And you know what? Most of everyone that orders from my website orders whole bean. Very rarely does anybody that's at the level of where they're ordering from the website are ordering ground. And you actually have we'll talk about what happened a couple of days ago. You have the first returned. It sent you a check, right?
Yeah, I still have it.
Yeah. That was actually somebody who had won the Facebook competition I did 2 months ago. They had won a year's worth of coffee, and their first coffee they didn't like. They said there was too much lemon added to the coffee. And I sent an email. Back. I was like, well, we're sorry. I'm sorry about that. You might enjoy the next month's a little bit more. And then I guess they didn't realize they could just go on the website and email me. So they sent you a check and a note saying, thanks for the coffee. Cancel my subscription. So it's not for everyone.
No, it's not. I'm glad I was the one to push him over the edge to be like, I don't like coffee.
It was I hope they gave it to somebody, because that dark Ugandan is really good.
When I saw the note in there, I was like, oh, maybe am I getting like a personal thank you? And I opened it up, I'm like, come on. I'm like, well, I'm glad I could be that person to push you over the edge.
And
Now,
and
if you're listening out there, sorry you didn't like the coffee.
yeah, we apologize. It's not meant for some people,
It's
and
not for everybody. Just like, not everybody's a wine drinker. Not everybody's a scotch drinker. It's not for everybody.
they said the secret in that. I listen to marketing podcasts all the time because I'm always trying to learn different techniques and everything. They say your coffee drinkers or somebody who's a connoisseur of something would rather see me advertise or you advertise that this coffee is not for everyone, that this coffee is for a specific group, than they would be to see us say that it's for everybody. They
Yeah.
want that elite thing. The way you present it is the important part because you don't want to come across too snobby. Like, oh, you don't. If you drink Folgers, don't even worry about it. You don't want to come across snobby.
No, absolutely not. Even if you're gonna look, I understand getting into anything, coffee, any hobby, it can be expensive. And if you want to have this as a special cup on a weekend, go for it. If you're gonna keep buying whatever's on sale at the grocery store during the week, go for it. But if like this is my treat to myself, I'm gonna spend $20 on a couple ounces of coffee, and I'm gonna make it right, and I'm gonna sit there on Saturday and read the comics, or what have you, or on Sunday, and that's your treat, go for it. You don't have to drink it every day.
For sure. I do. I kind of enjoy having my special.
We're spoiled that we're around it and we have access to it.
We are. But it definitely it's even it's cheaper than Starbucks. I mean, you can get, let's see, 300, what is it, 340 grams in a bag, a 12-ounce bag, something like that. That's, I don't even remember. I'm not even going to lie about the math, but if you're buying a Starbucks coffee every day, every 3 days, you can have one of our bags of coffee,
And it'll be a lot better, and it'll be artfully made by somebody that you can go on your website and look at these cats and say, wow, there's the person actually making it. It's not the kid making the drink. I don't want to say the kid. It's not the person who's just making the drink. Here's the person that roasted the beans and shipped it off to you. Their hands touched every piece of it to get you that coffee.
And the feedback, I love getting the feedback like I shared with you the other day.
Yeah.
I think it was before the check came back.
Yes, it was.
It was before the check came back that, I had 2 separate posts within 2 hours on Facebook with your bag, with your new labels, which look awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
Talking about your coffee and how good it was. And that was, I snapped the pictures, screenshot, text Mike. And it's so cool to be able to do that and interact with you. And you can do that. You're on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, and the silly thing I did with my business cards in the beginning when I didn't have a website, when I was like, okay, I'm going to go for this, and people were like, oh, when I was just telling them about it, I didn't have a roaster yet. I just had an idea that I was going to do this again. I just had a logo, and silly me, put my phone number on the business cards, my cell phone. And it's cool when you do get the one person to say, hey, this was awesome, thank you so much. But 99% of the time it's a list vendor that sold your number off to somebody.
Yeah.
So it is cool to actually hear the real interaction with the people who are like, wow, I'm really getting into this. I thought I liked this, but now I really like that too. And just to open up somebody's mind, explore, let them explore.
Mm-hmm. And when I first had my first Ethiopian Yirgacheffe, I was like, this coffee's horrible. What's wrong with this coffee? I thought there was something wrong with it. I didn't. Then every once in a while, I would go back and I would try it again. I'm like, it still tastes funny. It just tastes funny. And then I find out that it's supposed to taste like that. And then I'm like, okay, now that I know it's supposed to taste like this, let's see about this. Let's explore this a little bit more.
Yeah, I've got some fermented coffee that I haven't touched yet that I'm like, not that I roasted, that I purchased, and I can't wait to try it. I just haven't had the time to sit and really enjoy it and see what all the different flavors are.
What's the most expensive coffee that you've ever bought, you think?
Probably this right now. It was $60 for 6 ounces.
Okay. Is it a anaerobic fermentation?
Yes.
Okay.
From I want to say it was actually Costa Rica or something from like the Rico Suave. It's one of those names like Rico Suave, Finca, and
Yeah.
whatever. My friend does it. He got it in. I think he got like, don't quote me. I say he only got a couple pounds of it, and it just went like that. And I was like, I got to snatch it up this time when he got it back in. So
Yeah, I linked somebody last night to some geisha that's, 120 grams of it's like $54. You can get 3 cups of coffee out of that.
yeah, it's got to be one of those times where the stars and moon align, and I have, I just cleaned the grinder, and everything's absolutely perfect, and just change the filter on the water
Yeah.
before I go making that one.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Now
And
they're doing some really neat stuff, and that's one thing that the specialty coffee industry, if you get into it and start looking around, that there's people experimenting now, doing some really interesting fermentation techniques, even using different like champagne yeasts to ferment the beans to
yeah,
flavor profiles out of it. So it's definitely interesting.
yeah, and the things you can do with it, just from aging, if you're gonna, age in with a whiskey or a rum or this or that, that it is actually still a natural thing. You're not adding a syrup or some type of additive to it that, if people be like, "Ooh, what happened? What went wrong?" No, it's supposed to be like that. You're getting more of the oakiness than you are that final spice product or whatever. But
Yeah,
it's so cool. You can really do if you have the time, the knowledge, and definitely the money.
yeah, for sure. Those whiskey barrels are not cheap.
No, they are not. And
Yeah, and the time it takes. I know Muddy Joe's. I just added them last week. They do a whiskey barrel and rum aged barrel one, but it's labor intensive. I mean, they're turning it all the time. They can only add so much at a time. It's only good for so many days, and it's an investment.
yeah, you got to know that you're going to pump that out, and you've got people waiting for it. That it's like you better do that pre-order and make sure it's sold out before you even start it.
Yeah. I'm sitting here. I'm getting my notifications are going now. Looks like I had a really good run today, actually, on the website. Thursdays, for some
Yeah,
reason, are good. So I'm getting all these notifications that different people have shipped. So it's really cool to see orders come in the morning. It gets roasted in the afternoon and
yeah.
in the office.
No, it is like I like it. When I get the message from you that it's like, okay, let me get it together, and then it's out the next day, and like you said, it's still warm, and that in your heart of hearts that these people made a good decision and a good purchase,
Hmm.
whether it's from me or any of the other small micro whatever crafts specialty roasters. They made a good decision by choosing to do that.
Yeah. There's 3 packages that should have been in mailboxes across the country today that I really hope that people take the time on their Friday morning to have one of the best cups of coffee that they've ever had. And some of that's from your coffee.
It's so cool. It's great to hear, and like I said, I love hearing that from people that it's like, wow, I really really enjoyed it, or they took a gamble and they say, I didn't like it. Like, okay, what did you not like about
Right.
it? Let's talk about that, because it's not just that's the end of it. There's so much more, and it's so cool too that I could have the same exact bean from the same farm as some of your other roasters, and how we perceive them to be the best out of that bean. It could be 3 different cups of coffee from 3 different roasters.
Yeah,
I
totally.
think that's so cool too.
It's all on how that bean is roasted and how it progresses through that process to get those final flavor outcomes. Uh, what would you say to somebody who's uh, on the like wanting? Oh, we actually got some live comments here. Um, let's see. How, guys, we've we got a pretty good. Your is your roaster a gas?
No, it is electric. It's
That's what I thought.
It's the induction one.
So I'm sorry I missed the comments here. We had a comment, and
No, it's all electric. It runs on 120. Um, the venting is all in the back. It is quite smoky though. I will say I am going to try and work on something for that.
let me respond to this guy.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm not paying attention on here, I got my comments turned off, and I didn't realize somebody had asked
Oh
that
wait,
question.
yeah. Now that you just said it, I see private chat and I see comments.
Yeah, I just posted up, but um, that was a gas pressure question for
Yeah,
a
that's
roaster.
on your valve. You have to do that yourself. Do you guys know how to tune my roaster gas pressure? That should just be on your regulator valve. That
So
that that's your yeah, and check your airflow with that too.
awesome.
I don't know
Um,
a ton about it, but I know enough.
yeah, that when I first time I set in on a roast, I had no idea the amount. He's checking airflow in the stack and airflow in the drum and doing all this stuff. And I was like, okay, now I understand why when I say, hey, can you do a selfie video of yourself while you're doing this? That's not going to happen. It's just
No,
two hands on, which is an amazing process that goes on to produce that product. Where else are you carried there locally, or do you have any spots?
I am not right now. I was starting to get to that point where I was just getting big enough that okay, I can do this, and I was going to try to get in some smaller, nicer groceries down here. But all this kind of happened, and I
So if
was
you,
I sent out some samples to some restaurants, and
yeah,
life is on hold, or not life. Business is on hold for growth.
yeah, for sure, for sure. When uh, I had a good question there, and I totally lost it. My apologies on that.
All good.
I
Yeah,
might have a I might have a kid coming in the back here in just a second. So if I drop off, that means that somebody's coming in. They don't have clothes on.
sure.
Uh, when you're looking at when you're roasting, how much can you roast in a day? Like how many bags can you pull off in a day?
If I'm doing it, see that's the thing. I won't kill myself or the roaster on doing it because this roaster is very finicky. When I try and push her, she doesn't like to do more than I'll say she doesn't like to do more than four roasts back to back without a really good cooling process. But if I have to, I'll do with my one key. I'll do 12 roasts a day,
Okay, so
which it
you're
sounds like a lot, but it's really not a lot.
so you get
So
about 36 bags.
yeah, because if I'm doing, I try to have at least three coffees on tap. So try and make sure everything is the freshest of the fresh,
Right.
and making sure I can. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And don't get me wrong, it's one of those things that I would love the bigger roaster. I would love even just a 5 pound. Because even when I went from this one from my little home one that I was doing 8 ounces, and then I did the first batch on here. I'm like, this is great. I did so much more. And then I watch some of my friends that are dumping. And I'm like, I hate you.
but you grow into it, man.
Yeah,
You're able to progress as you start to sell, and you're like, okay, now I can't keep up. I'm going to have to make that investment. I'm going to have to get that next
yeah.
size.
And I'm not gonna lie. Like my friend started. He has, I believe, 6 locations now, 6 physical locations in downtown Philly, and he started on a hot top in his basement,
That's awesome.
and now he's got like a 50-pound Probot.
That's awesome. Yeah. If you watched a couple weeks ago when we interviewed Dutch, I think at one point he was roasting, a couple 100 pounds of
Yeah,
bat, the industrial size, big roasters for countercultures back in the day.
yeah,
So,
that's crazy.
it is crazy, and to be able to pull that off and still put out really good quality coffee is definitely an art form. and doing it at our scale at your scale is as even more so, to be able to get 30 bags of it that all taste.
Yeah, that's why I depend on, goes back to my senses, that I trust my senses. I don't trust the rate of rise all the time. I don't trust everything that the computer's telling me, because there could be chaff stuck on one of the filters, or not the filters, sensors. Something could be, going awry that I don't know about. But when it smells right and it looks right, that's it. And, yanker.
Awesome.
That's not going to lie. The computer will lie to you.
For sure.
So
I appreciate it, Mike. Where at this point in the conversation, I usually say, "What are your future plans?" But
that's a great question.
so, say everything turns around normal in 2 weeks, and we're back to normal activity. What are you doing, and what are you?
Give me more than 2 weeks. I would love this all to be over tomorrow. That we wake up and we're right back to where we were. Call it New Year's Day.
Yeah.
The one thing I do see is there are a lot of people who are not making it right now. So there's going to be a lot of spaces coming available. And I drove by a couple of them yesterday that I was really interested in. And there was a little corner unit in downtown, about literally 2 blocks from the Gulf of Mexico, and it's still available. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're going to ask for that, in a couple more weeks when this is all said and done. That I know it's been sitting vacant, and they just, want to get money in again.
Yeah. Would you roast and serve coffee in that location, or would you just roast? How would you?
Yeah, no, I definitely want a two in one spot. I want to roast in the back and have a little coffee bar per se up front. Good internet that you could sit around and BS on your phone or laptop, grab a cup of coffee, have a TV that doesn't have the news. I don't want it to have that airport feel where you just have the news on.
Yeah.
Something funny that sit and watch The Price is Right, or Let's Make a Deal, or what have you. A couple magazines out, that kind of feel, and just so people can spend, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, just to relax and have a break and have that little coffee bar esque, and do some snacks for people. There's a couple good bakeries that do some awesome donuts right down the street, so I'd love to just buy some from them. I don't want to ever get back into the cooking part of it. It's hard enough. I don't know if you've talked about that with anybody, about licensing and how hard it can be to explain what a coffee roaster is to a municipality that has never dealt with one before.
Yeah, I've seen some conversations about it in the coffee forums and in the Roasters Guild forums about different issues that people have with local codes and stuff. I can only imagine. On your side of Florida, did y'all get a lot of the Cuban coffee?
It's not as big of a thing down here. I mean, when I was living in Key West a couple months ago, I was living there for a while. I mean, it was everywhere. And there's a great little spot down there called the Cuban Coffee Queen, and their coffee was awesome, really good stuff. But it's funny that now that I started roasting coffee, I've been going there for years, and now that I started roasting coffee, I'm like, man, I was like, all this stuff is just one dimensional. It's all this dark roast. There's nothing really going on to it.
Yeah.
But we don't do a ton of Cuban coffee here.
That
Yeah.
just popped up in my head, and it was like, Florida Cuban coffee. I saw a conversation on that's one bean you don't see much of in the States, is actual Cuban coffee.
But the gentleman who owns one of the roasteries down there was kind enough to tell me his blend, and I jotted it down on a brown napkin when I was BSing with him, of how he mimics the taste of Cuban coffee.
Yeah. Is it, you just can't get the beans? Is it?
He can't get the actual Cuban bean. So he makes this blend that he feels is good enough. And I don't want to say good enough, but that he produces, that he likes. And I mean, I sell coffee to a Cuban guy, if that counts.
Yeah, okay, it works.
He rolls cigars there, and he buys a cup of coffee from me.
That's nice. That's
so
nice.
If that counts.
I'll have to send you some PayPal funds to get me a couple cigars, man. Hey, Mike, I really appreciate you too.
Absolutely, Chris. I had a blast doing this. Thank you.
It's again, and one of these days we'll get down to Florida and meet up and have a coffee or a beer or something.
Yeah, there's a ton of great breweries. We could start with coffee and wind up with beer.
Definitely. I'm going to try to roll this song on the way out here.
All
So
right.
don't drop off. I'll be right back with you. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and listening to me and Mike chit chat tonight about different things. Next week we've got Emily Smith from Novus Importers coming back, and we're going to be doing some stuff with her specifically for roasters. So, Mike, you'll have to watch that show, and it's more geared to roasters. So, I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, listening on Down the Road. Thanks. Stay 6 feet away from everybody. Wash your hands. Drink some good coffee. Have a great night. Thank you.